Hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, we're live already. You went live, huh? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if I'm a
Hello?
minute early or something, but yeah.
No, we're live. Hey, everyone. Uh, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Actually, there's nobody watching yet, so I'm just kind of rambling and we're getting settled here so we can start the look at next week's
I did
astrology
not
for the
check
week
this
ahead.
to make sure that it's going to go live.
It's live
It is? Okay.
right now. Yes.
All right. It's not set to private or anything. You're sure of that?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay. Just making sure.
Um, so anyway, we are here to talk about next week's astrology, the astrology for the week ahead, and we will also talk about a little bit of current events. And I am Jennifer Rose. I'm just going to start over again. It's been about a minute of trying to figure this out, and obviously I'm a little frustrated, so I want to get unfrustrated and start this over again. Good morning. This is Rose Tarot and Astrology. My name is Jennifer Rose, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Melanie Rose. And today we're here to do Astro Insights Live. And at the end of our 30-minute conversation about next week's astrology and current events, we will have a live tarot card reading about I can't remember what it is, the current energy coming in and the energy going out, just a simple
Yep.
2-card reading that we'll talk about. And how this is set up is I'm kind of an amateur astrologer, and my wife, Melanie, is an astrologer who is on this channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with Astrology Today, delivering 48 hours of regular current astrology at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we also do this together, and every now and then I will pop something in there. Right now, I'm curating a playlist for the um, astrology of the month of March. So every day I'm going to post a song and a tarot card that I feel meets the energy. And if you have any suggestions, please feel free to comment on any of the videos and let me know what kind of song you're feeling for the day. All right, so I have rambled on enough. This looks like a um, interesting week ahead. Not a very busy week, I don't believe, and I'll let Melanie fill you in on what's going on astrologically. So, Mel, will you talk to us about the astrology, please?
Sure. Happy to do so. Hello, everyone. I'm Mel Rose. I am your host of Astrology Today, and I'm here today with Jennifer Rose to discuss the astrology of the week ahead. First, I just want to look back at last week very briefly. We had the new moon in Pisces, which is like an opening onto the new year, like an opening, a doorway, I would say, into the endings that we're tying up before we get into the springtime. And then also on Saturday, Venus went retrograde. So, we had Mars retrograde for a long time. We had about 5 days off from anything being retrograde. And then now Venus is retrograde in Aries. Venus is bold in Aries, not necessarily very comfortable about being bold, but definitely um, a little more action oriented, a little more forward, a little more assertive. So I actually kind of like Venus retrograde in Aries because we're more likely to say what we feel. We're more likely to ask for the things that we want. I think it's kind of a good position for the Venus retrograde thing, which is about being in review and reflection on our relationships, right? So we can have some sort of bolder conversations with ourselves and others about what are we doing in our relationships, right? And then also yesterday, the sun squared off with Jupiter. So there's a lot of signature in the sky right now between all the stuff going on in Pisces and the sun squaring off with Jupiter saying, hey, take it easy. Don't overdo it. Don't over apply yourself to anything right now. Okay. It's still a time. The time to act is just around the corner, but it is still a time for relaxing and reflecting. It's still a time where when we're trying to make progress, we might find some frustration. And that doesn't mean don't try to make progress. It just means be patient with yourself and others, and sort of allow things to unfold as they're going to happen as well. Anything you want to say about last week, Jennifer?
I think a lot of what we saw last week, the same patterns from the beginning of the week to the end of the week, energetically, and kind of what's going on globally and in the world, are going to repeat themselves after a sneak peek at this week. So think about the themes that were um, happening to you, and maybe even those themes that kind of crept up into your week last week, and know that that theme is probably going to carry through this week as we're reviewing everything, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And
this
that Venus retro. Go ahead.
yeah, well, you were gonna say something about Venus in retrograde, and so was I. So, I
Yeah.
wanted to say, Mel, will you tell us your big 3?
Oh, yes. I am a sun in Aries and moon in Aquarius and Cancer rising. Actually, Cancer 17 degrees rising, which is where Mars is stationary right now. So I'm really feeling the Mars vibes of sort of uh, protectiveness and defensiveness right now. Mars has been in Cancer all this time, and definitely, it's not the most comfortable fit for Mars to be in Cancer. So um,
So, you have fire, air, and water in your big 3, and my big
Mhm.
3, I'm a Libra sun, a Capricorn rising, and a Pisces moon.
Yes.
And the eclipses usually hit hard with me. When I started looking into eclipses, which we'll talk about next week,
Mhm,
but we
mhm.
are coming up to eclipse season, and these really kind of eclipse me a lot. And with this
Yeah.
Venus retrograde, it is bringing out, since Libra is my sun sign, and is bringing out the more fiery part of my Venus. Like, I love you, and like, you shooting arrows in the hearts for love, but right now we're just wanting to shoot arrows and hearts.
Uh, yeah,
Same
Venus might
aim
be a
and
little.
different intention. So
Yeah,
if you're feeling that
Venus might be.
way, it may just be the rebellion of Aries and Venus together, which is
Mhm.
what she and I are. She's Aries and I'm Libra, so we
Air
are
feeds
that
fire.
air and
Air
fire.
feeds.
So anyway, yeah, I think those are going to be some carrying over themes into the next week. So
Okay, so starting on Monday, which is tomorrow, Monday the 3rd, Mercury is moving on into Aries. Excuse me. Monday, Mercury is moving on into Aries. So we have a whole bunch of stuff that has been sort of piling up at the end of Pisces and then shifting over into Aries. And a lot of that stuff is going to retrograde and shift backward into Pisces before moving forward into Aries again. This includes Venus, which is already in Aries, Mercury, which is now in Aries. They're both going to back up into Pisces and cross this border again. And then Neptune and Saturn are doing the same things this year, only on a slower, bigger scale. So this point where the planets pass over from Pisces into Aries, it's really like out of the end of the zodiac and into the beginning. So lots of beginnings and endings. And I feel like because it's going back and forth like that, it's almost like there are false starts, or there are, we think we're moving ahead and then we gotta pull it back. And then we think we're moving ahead, it's a little 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So that's a vibe I'm getting. But Mercury in Aries goes into Aries tomorrow. And in a couple of weeks, it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to be retrograde in Aries with Venus retrograde in Aries. So that's when the arrows will really start to fly. I think is when we have a lot to say assertively about the things we're reflecting on in our relationships. But for now, I just want everybody to notice the extra sort of feeling of boldness, of bravery, of courage, of fired up irritability, even anger. Rage is not out of the question. Okay, when we're feeling those fiery emotions that give us initiative, that make us want to step up and do something. Mercury in Aries is really the one to get us to take action. Really, it's going to help us make a bold plan. It's going to help us say some really bold words. So if there's something that you've been working on, how to say what you're going to say, you might find yourself impulsively saying it in a really assertive way in the coming weeks, for sure.
oh, absolutely. And, you know, speaking with such force as Aries will bring into a conversation, that passion, it's just more meaningful right now for some reason. And of course, this has me thinking about all the protests. There have been protests all weekend long. Um, I was telling Mel yesterday that I had no idea that there were some protests in Kansas City, and I popped onto Instagram and looked and saw all these people out there protesting and saying love is love, and it made me tear up. But just to go through and see all of these different protests that are happening, it makes me really happy that we feel and we're taking to the streets and we're being bold with what we're passionate about. And after this long weekend, after all the layoffs, the federal layoffs, and like the coup by Elon and Trump, and I mean, the list just goes on and on, the continuing airplane woes, and we still have some things upcoming, I believe, especially in this fiery season that we're getting ready to move into. And in the back and forth, I still think are the tariffs, and I think it's still Donald Trump like making these deals. We saw the back and forth that happened between
Mhm.
Donald Trump and the hero President Zelensky of Ukraine,
Mhm.
which was really embarrassing to see as an American. And I, in no way, subscribe to any of what Donald Trump said, nor do I think that they owe us anything for what we've put into the war. So I
No.
don't believe that we own rights to the minerals in their country or anything like that. Unpopular opinion, but I think we're going to see a more of that kind of crapshoot. Just I can't remember what Donald Trump does. He have Mercury and Cancer or something? I don't know, but
Yes,
he
he does
speaks
have Mercury in
passionately
Cancer.
and emotionally, um, and I think that he does that just quickly without thinking about it sometimes. And with this Aries fire, I think that we're going to see a lot of that stuff coming out of our legislators' mouths and then out of our mouths at them as well. So I
Mhm.
see still a whole lot of back and forth as far as this goes. And y'all just be careful when you're having, little instances, little sparks of road rage this week, okay? We all
Yeah.
have it, but sometimes it just gets a little bit carried away. And
Mhm.
this might be the time where you might just, I don't know. You might make
Yeah,
a shitty decision and it may end up costing you more than you thought. So just, practice as much
yeah.
patience as you possibly can and don't allow other people to
Mhm.
light your fuse if it's not already lit.
Mercury is also, it's not just your thoughts, plans, and communications. It's, the way you travel around, the way you get through
Mm.
your daily routines, the way you get where you're going. So in traffic, Mercury always brings me back to traffic.
Mhm.
Give the people around you some space. Let's not tailgate anybody. Let's mind the speed limit. And, honestly, when somebody's driving in front of you, that's the speed limit. You can't push them to go faster. That's not going to work. Okay. So just try to take it easy on yourself and others, especially while we've got this Mercury in Aries, Venus retrograde in Aries stuff going on. It's just sort of like there's a vibe like I'm not getting exactly what I want, and I'm not really happy about it, and I
Right.
might just pop off and be assertive about it in a way that doesn't help me, right?
Right.
So that's one of the big, as an Aries sun, I'll say that's one of the big lessons for Aries mentality is thinking before you leap, looking before you leap, thinking about the
Right.
consequences, which only took me about 45 years to figure out that I needed to do that. So, give yourself some time and some patience, take a deep breath and two more beats before you react in the way that you want to react at this time. So, moving on to later in the week. Well, I want to say on Monday, we do start out with the moon in Taurus. So, that's really a vibe for cultivation, for, putting where you're going to put down roots or where you're going to plant seeds, uh, thinking about your long term comfort
Mhm.
and stability and sort of slowing down and working at your own pace so that you have everything that you need and you're not uh, spreading yourself too thin. And then the moon will be also on Tuesday in Taurus, and on Wednesday it moves on into Gemini, which really speeds us up. So we go from that sort of slow plodding vibe with moon in Taurus into this moon in Gemini that puts our nerves on edge, puts our thoughts on edge, and really makes us likely to move very quickly, think very quickly, again, act and respond very quickly. So another warning up there about definitely like what you say, how you say it, how you're asserting yourself in traffic and all that kind of stuff. Also on Wednesday, Mercury has a sextile to Pluto, or it perfects its sextile to Pluto. Okay, so and this is going to be with us for about a month, actually. So
Mhm.
this is about speaking the truth, okay, especially if it's something that isn't apparent. Okay, like people will say something that shows that they are making an assumption, or they think they know, but they don't know. And
Mhm.
so your job at that time is to say, hey, I heard what you said there, and the truth about that is this. And a lesson I'm learning lately is not to just interrupt people in the middle of what they're saying. Even if they're mistaken, you have to sort of wait for them to finish what they're saying. Make sure you get the whole thought, make sure you understand what it is that's coming to you, and then, make the corrections where you need to make the corrections.
Right.
But
Yeah.
definitely, this is going to be a time for speaking the truth. It's going to be a time for being bold, and especially letting things out that we normally wouldn't let out, or making things clear that we wouldn't bother making clear, or we wouldn't even think to make clear. Yes.
Thanks. I had to pop in a couple of ticky tackies here. Yes, I agree. And again, that to me is more protest. And when you said the Taurus moon going into the Gemini moon, I thought, okay, Taurus moon likes to take the same road to work. All right. They like to have the same amount of time and the same pace, whereas Gemini can go either way about it. Like, so if they're
Uh-huh.
late, they're going to go this way because it's the fastest way. And if
Hmm.
they're not, they're going to go this way, which is their normal routine. So, a lot of this is really coming back to our own self reflection, to our own self awareness in all ways around us. Like when we're acting, that those actions not only have equal and opposite reactions, but they do affect other people other than ourselves. So it's a good idea just to give ourselves a minute to just think, like Melanie said,
Hmm.
like instead of interrupting at the end, take a deep breath and really think about what it is that didn't sit well with you, and then ask the question, like, whatever that was, just like, what do
Is
you
that
mean
what you
by
think?
that?
Yeah.
It's really like, what do you mean by that? And I noticed Mel doing that with me a lot because I have what I call the Neptunian fog with my Pisces moon, and I get carried away in fantasy, and so sometimes I just have to be brought back into this realm, into the here and the now. So
Hmm.
it's really, really important that you know we turn the TV off right now as much as possible, because if you want to, just go ahead and take your blood pressure before and after 5 minutes of the news. And really
Seriously.
show yourself what it's doing to your health, because it's not good.
Hmm.
If you want to raise your blood pressure like that, go take a walk. Like it's just
Right.
going to be really important for us right now to take care of ourselves in all of the ways. So that way,
Hmm.
our minds can function um, with a level headedness that we need, that comes with, self care, that comes with
Yeah.
eating food that's good for us and not all the
Hmm.
donuts in the world like I want to do, and drinking water and all that kind of fun stuff.
Hmm.
That was my Capricorn daddy coming in, so I'm out.
Okay. So I was really glad you said something about protests too in regard to the Mercury sextile Pluto, because truth to power, Pluto is about power. And it's sort of like the underlying power of the universe to keep rolling on, regardless of what we think about it or what we're trying to do. So we never know what's going to come up from that fundamental level of power, where we're talking about the underworld, we're talking about subconscious
Mhm.
beliefs and motivations, not just our own, but those of all the people around us, and power, people who are in power as well. Okay, I really think there's a tendency. You were talking about how Donald likes to, like he's got that Mercury in Cancer, and I just noticed that he's always acting on how things feel to him. It doesn't matter what he said before. It doesn't really matter, what his long term goals are or what he's agreed to with anybody else. In the moment, how he feels, that's what he's going to say. And often, how he's feeling is what I need to say in order to get what I want is right here. That's a very Mercury in Cancer kind of of vibration. So let's just be aware of that person's just always speaking how they feel. They're telling you how they feel. They're telling you what they want to be able to tell you in the moment. And with Mercury sextile Pluto, it might really work well for us to collaborate with people and show up and, mark our disappointment, mark our upsettedness, mark our anger with what's happening on the levels of power in our country. So this is going to be a good time for it. It's going to be a whole month of Mercury sextile Pluto. So I do expect to see more and more protests and more people speaking truth to power in the time coming. Coming up on Thursday, we have the half moon in Gemini, and that marks the fact that we will have our first eclipse in a week. Okay, so the eclipse is with the full moon on Thursday the 13th in Virgo. That's our lunar eclipse, and then we'll have a partial solar eclipse on the 29th. So those are a couple weeks apart, and that creates our first eclipse season of the year. Eclipse season is a time for things to change, right? For things to leave and for new stuff to come in. So notice right now what is leaving, especially because we have all these planets in Pisces. We really can, especially with the sun in Pisces, look at our lives and really notice what's on its way out so that we can be aware of that and do the work to be okay with it, or if we're not okay with it, to do the work to manage that transition, because as things are going out, new things are going to be coming in, and being in a time of transition, again, we've got Venus in Aries retrograde, we've got Mercury in Aries. We could be a little impetuous and impatient with these changes, so we just want to be really marking the change. We want to be aware of what is leaving, what is on its way out at this time.
And that's on Thursday?
Yes, the eclipse is 1 week from Thursday.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to say, as you were talking, it made me think about the fact that our military is kicking out the trans members of our American military. And I wonder if that's the day that they might arrive back here from wherever they're at on Thursday, or back in quote unquote custody of American military. So that would be really interesting to see when they actually put their boots back here in their personal lives, and how that moves forward. And I want to say something about that. Like, so that's happening, and there's not a damn thing that we can do to stop that. And we really don't want those trans people in our military if they're not safe in the military, or if they're going to be used as pawns or scapegoats, in order to die for our country. So once they are released, it is up to us to take care of them, to make sure that they have everything that they need to succeed. That they have housing, that they have healthcare, that they have mental health care, that they have support, that they have something to eat. And so Thursday, that might be when we're acting. That might be something that we hear about the troops coming home.
Yeah. And don't make the mistake of thinking that these troops that are coming home have nothing to add either, because they have gone into the military, they have committed themselves to the ideals upon which this nation was founded, and now they're being sort of released back into the wild because they aren't considered fit to serve. Even though they are fit to serve, I promise you, they're going to continue to serve their country in one way or another. So, it actually gives me a little bit of hope to know that these people might be coming home. They're trained in how to, behave in battle, and how to, solve problems, like thinking fast on your feet. They're trained in how to use weapons and how to advance. These are all important things that we're going to need to know. I mean, I hope we don't, but I think that we do. And it's always good to have a few people who are militarily trained on your side when you know you're going to have to stand up to power.
And I hear that one of the professions that ex-military members go into a lot, because there's a huge shortage, is police officers. And I, for one, would love to see a lot of trans people police officers, because I would feel like I was getting some fair treatment, at least, like a a solid, fair playing ground. And yes, I want those highly trained trans people back home because it seems like we're at war, and I can't think of a better way for those folks in a community to come back than to teach us some strategy, to show us how to use weapons properly, and to show us how to conduct ourselves in a way that won't have us, be just seen out there for the whole world. So, and I just want to say this too, that trans people have all the power, because everybody out there is so confused whether or not it's a boy or a girl, and you're really losing track of some things when you're doing that. So, as a trans person, um, you have the ultimate power. You know what it's like to look this way and look that way, and you know emotionally what you have to step into in order to do the opposite from which you feel. But it also is a great disguise. That's all I'm
Yes.
going to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so going on into Friday. Friday is the day that the sun completes a trine to Mars, and this is really positive. Now, Mars has been sitting stationary in Cancer. It's not its best look, Mars in Cancer. It's more defensive and protective than assertive and making progress. And it really hasn't been moving very quickly since it got out of, or really at all since it got out of retrograde. But Sun trining Cancer, this is, sort of like, it's sort of like our work, social, and civic lives in a state of grace, with this desire to defend and protect what is important to us, what is the most precious to us. So this can be an intense flow of energy. It can make you feel really amped up. Definitely amped up to defend or protect whatever it is that's important to you in your life. But also, Sun in Pisces, this is a time when, what's important is sort of like our connection to everyone and the all of everything. So we want to be the rising tide that lifts all boats, and we want our actions to reflect that. And I really think Sun trine Mars, when you say yes to actions that feel like a heck yeah, or activities or movements or progress of any kind that feels like a heck yeah, I'm going to do this. Even protective measures that feel like heck yeah, I'm going to do this. When you get that feeling, go for it, do the action. Positive things are going to come out of it, perhaps even more positive than you reckon could happen. Anything you want to say about that, Jennifer?
Gosh, are we still talking about Friday? Because there's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I thought. Yeah, this seems like a really expressive and defensive energy, kind of like
Mhm.
something that's happening in the comments sometimes. um, you know, what is it? Is it Mars? Is it Mars and Cancer? I wrote down here Mars and Cancer. Yeah, Mars and Cancer is passive aggressive,
Yes.
and but I do feel like, Friday, just kind of protecting everything and having the vitality and the energy to push through, to do that. Hello. And yeah, and I think that we're going to understand what kind of work needs to be done, what the important stuff we need action. The words are great and all, but we need those to spur action. And I think we're going to be doing back and forth, like, oh, like, I want to do this, and then doing it, and then being turned back around, like, oh, I want to do this again. I see how to do this. And it's just like back and forth. And I think that
Mhm.
sometimes when we try that, it's going to work for us, and other times it's not. So we should just pay attention to what works for us and then push that forward.
Yes, definitely be paying attention to what works for you, what feels good, what feels right, like what feels like progress in whatever it is that you're trying to make progress on. Go with that, and positive things can happen, or at least it should happen pretty easily. And then coming up onto Saturday, Saturday and Sunday. Well, I want to say that on Friday the moon goes on into Cancer. And the moon will be in Cancer for the whole weekend. The moon's at home in Cancer, and it really is a time when personally in our personal lives, we turn back toward our homes and the things that nurture us and comfort us and keep us safe. that's where we want to be. That's what we want to sort of cultivate at that time. So, if you feel like being a homebody this weekend, you would not be alone. I'm probably going to want to be a homebody that weekend too, although I do work on the weekends. So moon in Cancer, and the moon at that time is going to be a waxing gibbous. So we are coming up on that full moon that is next week. So we are taking action in the direction of completing some goals by that time. So we have something to look back on by the time we get to that full moon and say, hey, I did it again. I made progress this month. Otherwise, for the rest of the week, there are some lunar aspects, but most of what's happening is just like in the feeling realm, in the home realm. So that's moon squaring Venus and conjunct to Mars. That could be a little bit of tension in our relationships. But trine with Saturn, so we might be feeling super responsible and trying to get some things done or made secure in our lives, that kind of thing. But I want to say that partly because of the eclipses that are coming up starting next week, and partly because there's just a lot going on in the astrology, especially that Pisces to Aries crossover. This is a challenging time. Okay, if y'all feel challenged, if you all feel like you want to make progress, but you're not making the progress that you want, if you feel frustrated, if you feel just upset about things that are out of your control, out of your hands, you're not alone. And it definitely is part of the vibe. And the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be pretty challenging. So again, I just want to remind you, Sun in Pisces, take it easy on yourself. When things get overwhelming, step back, take some breaths, go with the flow for a little bit. Okay. Give yourself a break. It's okay to take a break, and it's okay to stop and think about what you're doing next or what you're doing right now before you go ahead and do it. Okay, there's a very strong look before you leap vibe here, and just a very strong remember to take breaks and take care of yourself. Okay, hydrate, eat nourishing foods, that kind of stuff. Take good care of yourself and the people that you keep close, especially this coming weekend.
Yes, I think that still kind of says that there's going to be more protests. And, that's not to say that you shouldn't stand up for yourself. There's a lot of transformative stuff happening with Pluto. We've got Saturn entering in the mix at the end of the week too. Just kind of, to me, that's the rules and the laws and everybody that's in charge. Just creating a wall there to try to not allow this transformation, to not allow this important conflict to happen. This is going to go back and
Mhm.
forth for a little while. And, you know, while we need to be, while we need to be careful about our reactions, it also doesn't allow for someone to be abusive to you, to do anything that's
Mhm.
against the law to you. You should absolutely 100% react in a way which gets you to the most safety, that brings you to the most safety in this moment, if that's what it is. And um, but don't allow that. Don't make that stop you from saying your piece or from getting out there and conducting what you have to say. Or I love protests because I get to scream and yell. A lot of us want to scream and yell into the void, and it's kind of like screaming and yelling into the void, but it's also wonderful magic manifestation of what we want to see and grow from this point forward. And we can't allow anybody to keep us from saying or doing what it is that we want. And if something gets in our way, it's okay to step back and relax and not intervene at that very moment. But you also need to step back and relax and ask yourself, what is your next best move right now? And
Mhm.
maybe that is to be quiet, and maybe that is to dial up a 911 or something. I'm not sure, but
Yes.
still, you still have to make sure that you maintain your own security. And if you feel unsafe, if you intuit that this is an unsafe conversation, you don't have to reply. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that. Okay,
Okay.
so I just want to quickly say that next week we do have that full moon in Virgo that comes with a lunar eclipse. Also next week, Mercury is going retrograde, among other things. I will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. to talk with you about that. I go a couple days at a time. Venus will still be retrograde, Mercury will be retrograde. It's going to be a fun time, but we will be here with you all along the way to let you know how we're navigating it and what we suggest you might do to navigate it as well.
Right, right. As a matter of fact, if you want to see the kind of energy that is already thrusting us into next week, you should read the comments right now. It's a whole lot of fuel to try to get you to react, and it's just kind of funny.
Exactly.
Assumptions only says one thing about you and not anyone else.
Right.
Just
It
remember
says
that
way more about the people who are assuming things.
when you're inserting things, make sure you have consent too there. So are we
And
down
make
to
sure
the
to
tarot
protect
card reading
yourself too,
part?
because you don't know.
All right. What are we talking about? Well, we just talked about the astrology for next week and what's going on with the planets and the sun and moon. And now we're transitioning to our live tarot card reading that Mel's going to do, a 2-card tarot card reading to talk about the energies for next week.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. So I like to do 2-card reading. What's coming in is the first card, and what's coming is sort of like what's approaching us. What can we expect? Also, sort of what can we think about embracing, right? Because sometimes new things come in, sometimes new ideas or just understandings come in, and we want to resist them, but resisting them really kind of like resisting the acceptance of a reality is not the way to make the progress that you want to make, right? So, what is coming in at this time? I want to say, you know, there's a little bit of a vibe of like, I'm so tired of the same old, same old. I'm so tired of these experiences I have been having, right? But at the same time, you see this hand coming out of nowhere, offering a new experience, offering a new sense of connection. And so that's, I think, what is coming in. Like, yeah, we are a little bit tired of the same old, same old. Some of us are more surprised than others about what's going on in the world right now. But, we've all been through this before. And now we're getting a new opportunity to take a look at it, see how we feel about it, and how we're going to react to it, right?
Yes. And I think that this is also asking us to I don't know, be mindful of the shit that people are feeding you. Like, be mindful of how much emotional um taking on everybody else's stuff, like just that person sitting there like I am very apathetic. I think it's the Gen X in me. I'm really not happy with a lot of my choices. And sometimes those choices are out of my control, unfortunately. Like I can't eat certain things or I'm allergic to certain things. And so I get really apathetic about my choices. Like I only have 3 or 4 places that I can eat at. And maybe, like one of those is just a little bit better than the other three. So I think, along the lines with what Mel said, I think that there's some better stuff coming in, and also you just watch for the bitter stuff coming in
Yeah.
because we can be bitter. Like it's kind of like you go into your boss and being like, "Can I have a 25-cent raise?" And they turn around and be like, "I'll give you a 25-cent raise in another 3 years." And
Right.
you're like, am I going to take that shit or not? It's like, am I going to take that? And those cups are full of, like they could be full of something that you're drinking, like don't drink the Kool-Aid or you're not happy about the Kool-Aid that's being given to you. It can be about somebody else's intuitive processes. It can be somebody just emoting or someone else's emotions that are kind of coming your direction and you're really not sure how to handle it or what to
Mhm.
do, especially when it's coming out of nowhere. Like this is just coming at you. So
Right.
I can tell you right right now, the best thing to do is not to sit there and cross your arms, though, because that looks defensive. And it certainly doesn't look like an open person if someone's coming to you to kind of just, vent or whatever.
Mhm.
So if you do have that person coming to you and they're overly emotional or they're feeling it and they're just not able to really regulate it, just know that that's not your problem. And it can be irritating, but just to be as kind as you possibly can and duck out in that nicest way possible.
Yes, I think what you were pointing to is like the emotional labor people ask us to do for them.
Yeah,
I've had workmates in the past who, they get pretty upset about something that's going on in their life, and probably for a good reason. But then they bring it to work and they talk, only about the terrible things that are happening for them, and you're supposed to sit there and process it with them and listen and be a support. Don't do that if you don't really want to. Like, you can be supportive just by being present and say, "Hey, I am glad you made it in today. Thank you for being here." And
right,
then get on with your work. But it's entirely up to you how much emotional labor you're going to do for other people.
right.
So
And
that's go ahead.
sorry, I'm sorry. One thing I want to say about that is when I have people like that, I often have people just out of nowhere message me about something like, I think Mel is the same way, like something like serious and emotional, I offer a service in my inbox or in my text messages that is a venting. Like you can start off and say vent or rant and then just go and I will read it. I don't respond. It means I don't respond. It just means I need to tell somebody that's not going to judge me. I just need to get it out.
Yeah,
So like that's always a great opportunity to help a friend or family member or someone who's in need to just let them, just let them say what they need to say or type what they need to type, and then just you don't even have to read it. Just
yeah,
make sure that you have some guidelines about that. Like, hey, you can get in my inbox and rant about this all day long and I won't read it. I just want you to feel better. I can't,
yeah.
like I can't help you right now, like or something
Mhm.
like that. Maybe not, I can't help you right now, but maybe I'm not in a position right now to hear this, but I would really love for you to put this in here as a vent, like
Right, and you may not need somebody to really, like, give you any feedback over it. You may just need to say it all, out loud, so to speak, so that, it makes more sense to you, as well as, you've got somebody there to just look at it and go, "Man, that sucks. I'm sorry," you know?
right.
Okay, so that's what's coming in, an opportunity to think about the emotional labor that we're doing, an opportunity to be helpful without having to, engage ourselves fully necessarily, and also just an opportunity like to think about the experiences we've already had and sort of measure that against the experience that's coming, the next experience we see coming down the pike, so that we can say, I think I'm gonna have some of that, or I think I'm not gonna have any of that, right? So, on the going outside of this reading, what is leaving us? What can we release? What can we let go, right? I was talking about that a little bit earlier, just in terms of the sun being in Pisces and all these things coming to an end of the zodiac. Okay, so endings and beginnings, you never see one without the other. So what is coming to an end? What do you notice is coming to an end, and how can you let go of it? But mostly just what's going out? What's going out right now?
The Pope.
The Queen
The
of
Queen of
Wands.
Wands.
The Queen of
Well,
Wands.
well, she might be going out for a little ride about to hit somebody with that wand, but she's actually coming in. Like, but I'll let you go ahead. I just had an. I was like, well, that Queen of Wands is not going out, and if she
Well,
is, she's going out to
here's
raise
what I'm
hell.
asking myself right now is, what does the Queen of Wands let go of? Okay, what does she
Right.
disregard? What does she release? Okay, and the Queen of Wands for me is a sign of shadow work. It's a sign of, like, sort of
Mhm.
facing your fears and working on the things that you really struggle with, so that you can be a better example in the world, be your best and brightest self in the world. And part of that is, sort of making friends with the shadow, making friends with the parts of us that we're not necessarily proud of, coming to terms with the parts of us that, or the things that we've done or said that we're not necessarily proud of. Okay, so what she does in letting go, Okay. And it's not just releasing or getting rid of those things that she's not proud of. What she does is she sort of befriends them and she lets them be around and be a part of her life to inform the way she behaves in the world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the thing, like she's not the black cat, she's the queen.
Right.
She lets the black cat be, because what are you going to do with that black cat? You're just going to have to love it and keep it and take care of it so it doesn't become an annoyance or a problem for you.
Right. So maybe it is that we're getting rid of the ego that goes along with our self awareness. That we're not, like just knowing our shadows, our shadow self and the things about ourselves that aren't quite as bright.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also feel like it's like stop being passive aggressive. Like stop poking people just because they're poking you. Oh, maybe
Well,
that's me.
it also might just be like let go of really aggressive impulses at this time,
Mm,
because really
mm,
aggressive
mhm,
impulses definitely coming up with Venus retrograde in Aries, with Mercury in Aries, a lot of things trying to push out of Pisces into Aries and get started. Okay, so there's some discernment to apply between what's assertive and what's gonna make a good start, and what's aggressive and what might
mhm,
not make the best start, right? Like if we show up in certain ways that are fiery and impulsive, uh, it sometimes gets us pushed back, right? It sometimes sort of slows us. We think we can make fast progress and we get really aggressive about it. And then we realize, oh no, that's not the way people want to see us behaving. And people are going to push back when they see you being aggressive. So let's have some discernment right now between what's assertive,
mm.
what can have a positive outcome as a result of our actions, and what's just aggressive and might face more pushback. Right, when Mercury's in Aries, Mercury is always thinking about efficiency, but Mercury in Aries really wants efficiency because it wants to get things done, started and done, speedy, quick. Right, so we just want to. I think we just want to discern the difference between making positive, assertive moves and making aggressive moves that people are going to push back against.
Right. It seems like making aggressive moves right now is just being aggressive. And um, the astrology doesn't say that you're going to necessarily go anywhere. Like you might go so far and then you're going to get kicked back. And it's just always putting you on. The universe is always just putting you on the path that
Mhm.
is, I think, probably the last of the path of least resistance. But that is not ironically what we choose for ourselves. We often put ourselves on the path of the most resistance because we feel like we have to punish ourselves for something. Like if we don't go about it in this strong, buff, hard way, then it wasn't earned, and that's bullshit.
Right. If we didn't suffer for it.
Right, right,
Yes. Yes. Let
right.
let
We
go
shouldn't
of
have to suffer
suffering
for
for your
soup.
progress, for one thing. This is a person
Right,
who works out why they're suffering and then goes and makes progress, like not just punishing yourself to make the progress that you want to make, but really knowing yourself well enough to make the progress you want to make without having to struggle too hard.
right. Taking that wand and writing notes, and dip it in some ink and writing some notes with it, Mercury style, and saying what it is that we're getting rid of, what it is that we're not taking from anyone anymore, what it is that we're not putting up with, what it is that we need to have that's positive in our lives in the direction forward, like the path forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taken.
Okay, so
It's still like a chariot to me.
coming in, we have emotional and intuitive and connective opportunities, and reflecting on how we feel about what we've already tasted. And going out, we have, pushing too hard, punishing ourselves to make the progress that we want.
Right.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yes. The energy right now says don't push too hard in. I'll give
Yeah.
an example. Like I have all this content that I create for all sorts of different things, and it's not even content that I'm putting anywhere. I'm just creating it because creation. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this new thing, and I've got all this ideas for it and everything. And then I was like, oh crap, I forgot I have to do this thing and this thing. Like I got really carried away in this one thing that really got my interest sparked, and all of a sudden I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is awesome, and this is the way. And then it's like, oh yeah, but you have all these other ways that you've been taking and that you've started and that you've agreed to and that you've, promised, your word is your bond. So I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna have to be put on the back burner. And then maybe later on in the day I do work on those other things and the other thing creeps back up. I'm like, stop it. No, not now. Because I just know that it's not going to go through, and it seems like it's going to be about a month or so. So I really can take this time to further curate how I want to see those creative things and take the time to adjust and put them in the way that I like them as opposed to just feeling like I've got to get them out there now. It's just not the
Mhm.
time to just like get it out there now. Like
Yeah.
and that it's going to just take off. It's just going to get out there now and just kind of sit there and then take off a little bit and then come back, and you're not going to know the real analytics of the thing until you really just take a minute to step back and figure out what it is that you want from it and then push it forward.
Right. Okay, I think that's a good one. I think
Yes.
that's a good note to end on,
Yes.
actually, and I
Yes.
appreciate that coming from you for sure.
So, thank you so much for joining us here at Astro Insights Live with a live tarot card reading every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mel is going to start having some special guests besides myself, so I can be down in the comments and talk to people. So I'm looking forward to that about mid-month here. Mel is available Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time on our YouTube channel for Astrology Today, where she gives you your regular current astrology. And if you'll hit the notification bell, you will find out when I'm the chaos factor on our channel, when I randomly post up spells or superstitions or whatever it is that I'm into right now. And right now, I'm into a playlist for this month of March. So I will be posting up in our community posts. So if you subscribe, you'll get those. And you will see the tarot card and the song that I've picked for the energy of the day throughout the month of March, just kind of get us through, get us feeling good, get us thinking about some things. And I hope that you'll join us for all of those things. And I hope to see you back here next Sunday at 10 a.m. for Mel and I to talk about the current astrology and to give you another live tarot card reading. Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm Jennifer Rose, and that is my sweet wife, Mel Rose. And we appreciate you being here today. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you, friends. See you in the next video.